This week on Art in the Air, we feature glass sculpture artist Mark Laputa, along with Melanie T Long, who works in a variety of media. Next, we have longtime Michigan City photographer Richard Warner. Our spotlight is on Lubeznik Center for the Arts' 40th Art Festival, returning live on August 21st and 22nd with Executive Director Janet Bloch.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart.
Welcome. You're listening to Art on the Air on WVLP 103.1 FM and Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, our weekly program covering arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. I'm Larry Breckner of New Perspectives Photography, right alongside here with Esther Golden of The Nest in Michigan City.
Aloha, everyone.
We're your hosts for Art on the Air. Art on the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project grant through South Shore Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Art on the Air streams live at WVLP.org and is rebroadcast on Monday at 5 p.m., plus is also heard on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM every Sunday at 7 p.m., also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our spotlight interviews are also heard Wednesdays on Lakeshore Public Radio. Information about Art on the Air is available at our website, brech.com/AOTA. That's Brech, BRECH.com/AOTA. That includes a complete show archive, spotlight interviews, plus our show is available on multiple podcast platforms, including NPR One. Please like us on Facebook, Art on the Air, WVLP, for information about upcoming shows and interviews. And we'd like to welcome back to Art on the Air Spotlight the Executive Director for Lubeznik Arts, and especially for the Lubeznik Arts Festival coming up, Janet Bloch. Welcome to Art on the Air Spotlight.
Hi, Larry. Hi, Esther. Thank you.
Hi, Janet.
Well, this is the festival season, and all the way around where different arts organizations having it, and this is your turn, and this is coming up on August 21st and 22nd. So tell us about that coming back. Last year, I guess you were virtual. Wasn't that the case?
No, last year we actually canceled. We didn't have a virtual event, and I know that a lot of the artists and patrons were disappointed, but we just felt it was the best decision to make. I didn't want to be responsible in any shape or form to getting people out and possibly exposed. So I think we're doubly excited this year to get back to the swing of things.
Isn't it like the 40th year as well?
It's actually the 39th year.
39th?
Because we missed last year. So we're going to have to do something very special next year for the 40th. It would have been. Yes. So, it's a little different each year. I think we're trying to get a format that we feel is successful, but we like to add things or as we go on, and also just the culture changes, what people want to do and what they want to see. So we try to be responsive.
Is the format, are you still going to have galleries on the inside, and which galleries would those be?
So inside we are actually going to have artists, and one of them is an art center will be represented in one of the spaces is called Harrison Center for the Arts, and it's in Indianapolis. And it's actually a much larger and older organization than Lubeznik Center, with a slightly different mission. But we connected, and we thought it would be a great exposure for them in our area, and just something new and different, for here. And then we have an artist from Indy who just won the airport commission for some public art in Indy. And then we have in East Chicago, Ish Mohammed Nieves. And he took the same space 2 years ago. And he's just such a great guy, wonderful artist. We try to get the festival a balance of more traditional artwork with contemporary art. And so indoors, we're trying to really feature more contemporary, a feeling like to a gallery artist who wouldn't necessarily show at an art festival.
Right.
They just don't know that. They don't know that whole model.
Janet, I think I read that August 22nd will be a free family day, courtesy of McDonald's LaPorte.
Yeah, thank you,
Yay.
Esther. Oh, one of my goals is to make everything we do free. It's one of my dearest initiatives, is that, if we're really an art center for the people, how do you make it more accessible to as many people as you can? And even though the fee has never been, or the admission fee is only $5, and children are always free, and members are always free, and military personnel, but there's a whole range of people that benefit doesn't extend to. And I really don't want there to be a financial barrier. So we had to figure out a way to do it, but still bring in what the admission gate would have brought. So very kindly, McDonald's of LaPorte County has stepped in to sponsor Free Family Day on Sunday. So everyone's welcome every day. And if you can't afford it, we would still let you in on Saturday. We don't turn anyone away. It's just a nice way for a sponsor to support the community and for us to be supportive.
How many booths do you have, and what kind of food do you have there, and everything, and what are activities?
So we have, we're probably only going to be at about 50 booths this year. I think we had 47 outdoors and 3 indoors. And then, of course, you can see what's on display, which I'll go into in a little bit. We have all our exhibits up. We have had trouble getting food trucks, actually. But right now we have Social Q Barbecue committed, and we're working on a dessert truck. We try to make it a win-win situation for all of the vendors, for the food. So we don't want to put 4 food trucks there because we want people to want to come back and, make some money. So that is a decision we go to. Even though we pull the electricity, we kind of keep it limited, but we always have, like, the Social Q Barbecue he'll have vegetarian.
They're so nice too.
They're so nice, and they're local. And then you asked me something else.
Well, we have to wrap it there, actually, Janet. We're out of time. That's Janet Bloch about the Lubeznik Art Festival, August 21st and 22nd. Don't miss it. Thank you so much for being on Art of the Year Spotlight.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Esther. Take care.
Thank you.
You're listening to Art on the Air, WVLP 103.1 FM, and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM. And we'd like to welcome to Art in the Air. It's, I guess you might say, a power couple in the arts. We had the privilege of interviewing one of them during our COVID special, how it's affected them. But anyway, they're both bring artistic things to us. He grew up in Pennsylvania and found great pride and satisfaction in creating things with his hand. And I like the unique story that he tell us a little bit about. But in holiday in New Zealand, he decided he liked the kind of art that inspired him. So that was great. And then we have our other artist who has a background that's immeasurable and a whole wide range of mediums and everything, and she's developed that. And so now we'll let them talk. And first, it's Mark Laputa and Melanie T Long. Welcome to Art on the Air.
Thanks for having us.
Yay, aloha.
Well, Mark, we'll start with you. And you have a very unique story about while hiking, how that actually influenced your art practice or got you into it. So tell us again a little bit about your background, about, first of all, growing up, where you grew up, what you did, what studied, anything like that, and then we'll move into your art.
Sure. Born in Pennsylvania, and I went to the University of Pittsburgh, and upon graduation, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. There wasn't a lot of jobs. I worked pretty much the worst job I've ever had, and decided to travel. I had a little bit of money saved up from working like 3 jobs at a time, and just traveled to New Zealand and backpacked around the country and worked little odd jobs. And in between having money and being broke, found a job at a glass studio in Taupo, New Zealand called Lava Glass. They hired me, and I began what's called cold working, which is, I guess, what I'm mostly known for. But it's basically the process where after you blow glass, there's always pieces to cut and grind off, like maybe the flat base of a vase or something like that. So I began doing that, and it kind of fed into the artwork that I started to make there, where I just basically blow thick glass bubbles and then cut them into odd forms using different grinding wheels. And yeah, the that trip turned into, well, started out, it was supposed to be about 6 months, and I ended up staying for the rest of the remainder of my visa, which was a year, and just, worked as much as I could at the glass studio, and had to leave the country after the visa was up. And in between coming back to the States and going back, we were just with the guys from Lava Glass sorting out another work visa. So I was home for about 2 months before going back for another 2 years to do basically an apprenticeship.
So what about elementary school? What was your art? I mean, did that spark like sort of thinking about art at all, or do you have an artistic family?
And coloring, and no, not really. Dad was an okay drawer, but he probably won't admit to it. I don't know. I grew up like drawing dinosaurs and things, just like any other kid.
An interesting route to where, because it was like engineering and then graphic, and then you wind up in New Zealand and you found your passion.
Yeah, I think they still play together. I was even talking to my mom about this yesterday because she ran into my drafting teacher in high school and he had just retired. And I think that I wanted to design bicycles. I wanted to design objects that I liked, particularly bicycles. And that's why I went into engineering, but that type of thinking just didn't work for me. It wasn't hands-on.
But it's in your work now. I mean, look how precise your work is with those cuts and the symmetry and. Yeah,
I think all the things that even through engineering and drafting and engineering, that mechanical side of thinking definitely still has a huge role in my work.
So you came back stateside and then you went back to apprentice. How long did you do that apprenticeship?
Overall, I was in New Zealand for about 3 years total. So I think I went June of 2004 and I left in April of 2007.
Okay. Excellent. Well, for the time being, we'll move on to our other guest here. Melanie, tell us a little about your journey and everything, where you grew up, studied, school, and some of your background here.
I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Grew up there, and then I attended Alberta College of Art and Design, but now it's called the Alberta University of the Arts. And kind of went in for printmaking and painting, and with an interest in glass because I had taken a course when I was 15 and I absolutely loved playing with fire. Like, it was kind of dangerous and kinetic, and I like to move around a lot. So it just seemed like such a cool mix of both.
So tell us, Melanie, what did you do after you graduated? How did you go through college and you kind of experimented with fire and things like that? What did you do after that?
All right. So when I was in college, I also went on exchange. And so I ended up in Canberra, Australia. And then after I did that, I kind of had a bit more direction when I graduated from ACAD. And I went to Canberra where I worked at the Glassworks, which was pretty cool. And then I also worked for some other artists as a artist assistant and stared at the birds and the kangaroos a lot. Made a little bit of my own work too. So
how long were you there?
I was there for about 2 years. And then after that, I just thought I wanted to do some more exploring. And then I lived in Vancouver for about 6 months and blew glass there as well. The gallery assistant and then also a production glass blower. So that was really fun. And I was painting a lot. And then I decided that Vancouver was way too rainy in the fall and the winter. And I was having none of that. So I went back to Calgary and started to pursue a career in education because I really, really, really love educating. And so then I went to University of Calgary, got my education degree, and then I started teaching.
And in between there, we met.
Oh, okay.
No, I was just going to say.
Well, let's hit that story. What grades did you teach, Melanie?
So I started by teaching high school, and I really, really loved teaching that. But the school system in Calgary is a bit different in the fact that it was really hard for me to secure a high school art position. So I started subbing for elementary and junior high. Then I was teaching junior high for a little bit. And then somehow I ended up as an elementary generalist. So I was mainly teaching grade 5 and grade 6. I found it really difficult because they have a box for you to fit into. And if you don't really fit in that box, it's pretty difficult, especially when they're like, oh, hey, you can do anything you want. You can teach anyone you want, but you have to do it within this box. And so I just found that really hard to deal with, especially being like a bit of a free spirit artist. So when I started teaching elementary, I think I just started counting down the days until I didn't have to do it anymore.
And then what did you do?
Yeah, I also taught at Alberta University of the Arts, first year glass studies, and then I taught continuing ed as well. I did drawing and portraiture and painting and all that fun stuff. So
Do you add printmaking?
I don't printmake at all anymore. I do miss it. But I just find that I don't really have the facilities, and there's not enough hours in the day, especially if you like to sleep in like me.
You like to be up at the crack of noon, right? So tell us a little bit how you guys met in this whole process of you both going down under to different places, and then how you guys found each other.
We actually met at the Pilchuck Glass School, which is a glass school. It's about an hour north of Seattle, just basically in the woods. You know, you invite 100 glass blowers in the woods, and it's a rowdy, fun time. But it's like going to summer camp. I mean, for an adult, I think that's as close as you get for a summer camp. But we were both up there as teaching assistants. I had actually shown up a day earlier than I was supposed to, and the school was cool enough to just let me stay. And a lot of the staff was getting ready, preparing the whole grounds and the equipment and everything for the next group of students that were going to come through. I was just helping my friends do whatever. I was bored and just helping or trying to help people. And I think they just got frustrated trying to delegate jobs to me. When she showed up, my friend Tom was like, "Hey, there's a cute girl over there. Why don't you just go talk to her and get out of my business?" Normally I wouldn't just walk up to a girl and start talking to her because I'm a little shy. But I don't know. I just was
the magic of Pilchuck.
So yeah, we just immediately started talking, and then she had never been there, and I'd been to the school the year before, so took to being the tour guide, and we hung out all the time, the whole time we were there. Really hit it off, and then when school's over, everyone goes their separate ways, and it was very hard. And we always kept in touch over the years, but that's right when she was moving to Vancouver, so she had something new happening, and my artwork was finally starting to maybe take off a little bit, so I was very focused on it, and we just remained friends. But yeah, through COVID and everything, I feel like some people were fortunate enough to realize certain things they maybe wanted in life, or maybe a little bit more of a direction, and we began talking again, and then came to America during the pandemic. Did a road trip across the country, and we were together every second of every day, and it was just awesome. So
what did you see on your road trip?
Well, last year I thought that I was moving to Oregon to open up a studio with my friend Steve. Steve Hagen, he's an artist. Well, he lives in Portland now, but he's also from Pennsylvania. So her and I drove one of my vehicles out there thinking I was leaving it, and we were going to look for a studio and then in a month or two move. And long story short, that didn't happen, and we're all moving to Tucson, Arizona, hopefully in the next month or two. We fly out there in 2 weeks to look for a house and a studio. So very different plans, but yeah, that's why
both great glass communities.
Yeah, both are great. So
I have a Pilchuck question.
Excellent.
So yes, you're there as assistants, but do the instructors all get together and learn from each other? I mean, are you able to, because I'm sure there's people that you probably, did you pre-know any of the other teachers or instructors? They have time to mess around. And
as you go there over the years, community's small, even though it's worldwide. Like everyone knows everyone or knows someone that knows someone. So it feels very small. And so getting to go up there, especially if you get to go every year, it's like going back and seeing friends that you haven't seen all year. And everyone learns from each other, and the energy and creativity is untouched almost. It's really spectacular how much just idea sharing, learning happen. So I don't know.
That's good.
What do you think?
So I think, Mark, we kind of met before you had your show in the Netherlands. I think you were, I remember you talking about this thing that was going to be in the future. So how did that come about, and what work? Yeah, I think everybody'd be interested to know how that comes about.
I've had 2 shows over there. The way I began selling my artwork in Europe, and it's very strange and backwards, I suppose, for an American artist to suddenly everything he makes gets sent to Europe. But I'll have to go back a little bit. So when I worked in New Zealand, I worked with an English glass blower at Lava Glass named Chris Jones. I learned a tremendous amount from him, like basically all of the basics of glass blowing I've learned from Chris and the other artist there, Lyndon. And Chris worked on a team in England that made Dutch artists work named Peter Bremmers. And through that team, I got to know Peter as an artist. He showed in a certain gallery in the Netherlands, which was one of the best glass galleries in the world and still is to this day. But anyway, basically through the network of glass artists and galleries and things, I was aware of this Dutch gallery and the owner's nephew was starting a gallery and saw my work somehow. I think he saw it on MySpace when that existed. We had some contact, and he was really interested in me sending artwork, but I was nervous because I had barely established in the States or even no one really knew who I was. And it's scary to send artwork across the ocean, and you don't know when you're going to see it again or who you're sending it to. But because I knew that he was legitimate, eventually I had work to send, and almost immediately started selling. And then it just kept going for a couple of years. Just everything I made sent to the Netherlands and sold, and it was just really successful and exciting. And I had 2 solo exhibitions there before. I had 1 solo exhibition in the States before then. But yeah, it was just really strange and wild, but exciting.
So I remember in those first conversations we had, I think like back 2009 or 10, you were talking about this Swedish technique that you used for like the sneech faces that we had. How did you learn that?
When I was in New Zealand, Chris would use a little bit of Swedish overlay technique. So I first saw it through him. They did it often on that team in England that I mentioned for Peter's work. When he used to make blown work, he mostly makes cast glass now, which is also incredible. But then I tried it a little bit on my own and had a series called the Oculus series, which I was kind of messing with. And then that second year, the year at Pilchuck where I met Melanie, the whole class was kind of based on Swedish overlays and color overlays and different techniques to bring the color to the surface of the glass so you can later carve through it and create images using different diamond and engraving techniques. So I guess it stemmed, from Chris, and from that time at Pilchuck, I got very good at it. And I still use it on all my work that I'm currently working on right now. So pretty vital.
Your geothermal landscape series reminds me, when I look at Melanie's paintings, they're almost married as well. It's just very reminiscent. And as I was scrolling through the geothermal, all those shapes, especially, I think, on your website, Melanie, it's like Any Trace of Earth, where you have this beautiful sort of abstract colors in the background, but then you come in with these very graphic shapes. And that's what the geothermal series looked like. And it was like, I don't know if you inspired each other or if that was happenstance, but that was pretty cool.
They're a few years apart, really, but I definitely see what you're talking about, because just I guess I carve away the shapes that she's painting almost, in a way, abstract.
Right,
they're all taken from images of, the earth. I mean, hers are landscape paintings often. I use a lot of reference photos from different trips or friends' trips.
And you're an avid rock climber, so you're right up there.
Yeah.
And actually, I want to know about, glass blowing is a very, very physical discipline. And so how do you prepare for that? Or in the doing, do you build up the strength? Because glass is heavy.
I definitely think.
Is that where the rock climb? I guess what I'm going is that where like the rock climbing comes in? And,
no, the rock climbing, I guess that settles my mind, because it's constantly going 1,000 miles an hour. And when you're rock climbing, you can't be thinking about 1,000 different things, because you have to focus on what's immediately in front of you. Because I suppose rock climbing for me is meditative when you're up there, because you're just focused on the task at hand and what you're going to grab and where you're going to move and how you're going to grip certain holds. But I definitely think glass blowing in relation to rock climbing, just both are so physically demanding that I think for me, in the way I work, I have to be in some sort of physical shape. And that's why I do, rock climbing just brings joy too. Mostly everything I do has to be fun, or I don't want to do it. And I think that's the same for work, because I do what I absolutely love. If I had to give up rock climbing for glass blowing, I would do it in a heartbeat. It's absolutely my favorite thing. But I think you just have to be in shape for it. The glass is heavy. When I'm cold working the glass, it's heavy, and I'm holding in really awkward positions sometimes, so you're a little bit off balance, and it's just all exhausting. So to not be in shape, you definitely feel it if I take time off of either the sport or the glass, and then you come back to it, you're like, oh yeah, I gotta knock the rust off again.
So where, your series, you can see the progression, and a lot of it's based on, I can also tell by when you do your travels, it really informs a lot of your work. So where are you now with your work? I know you're in the process of moving, so that's probably, you have a lot on your mind.
Yeah. I've just been focused on this one series that I've been working on for about the last 4 or 5 years. And it's still, I get bored sometimes, but this series is still evolving, I think. And Like I finished a piece yesterday, and not often is it my favorite one, but this one I'm really, really happy with and excited by. And, that's what it's all about when you're creating. I don't really think about, you have to an extent, but I don't really think about how I'm going to sell something. I just try and make the things that I like and enjoy and something that I'm proud of in the end, and hope that someone else appreciates it as well, appreciates it enough to spend money on it. Still love what I'm making, so it's still evolving.
The work is, your work is, it touches on everything. The shapes are so intriguing, and your color choices, and you're playing with color. And I, of course, like the natural world is just so exquisite, and to see it interpreted in glass is really beautiful.
Melanie, tell us a little bit about your work and the different mediums you work in.
So I am a glassblower as well, but just because I was really focused on teaching, and teaching is also like a marathon. You go to school all day, but then after school, it's like report cards and this, that, and this, that, and this, and it weighs on your heart a lot too. So I just didn't have any time to blow glass, even though I love it. So painting was a lot easier because that's more stop and start, right? So I was really working in acrylics and watercolor and oil. Okay.
And my question is, how did you end up in Alabama? It doesn't seem like that's the big artistic center of the world. So, I'm just curious, how's Alabama, got you there?
How'd you get here?
How to get here?
How you got from where you were to where you are now?
Mark kidnapped me.
Basically.
Wife nabbed me. No, just kidding. So like I said, I was kind of always counting down the days until I could leave my job. Because it didn't really bring me joy anymore. Mark still brings me a lot of joy. And just this life of creating art and making it work as an artist. And when we thought about where we wanted to live, it didn't necessarily make sense for us to go up to Canada when he had things down here and a following down here. So that's kind of what brought me down to Alabama.
Yeah, we ended up in November. So to backtrack, we had our time together last summer, traveling and taking the vehicle across the country. It's a conversion van too, so we were camping and kind of living in it, which we do kind of part-time when we do our trips. Just every day, constantly talking to each other. We knew that we wanted to be together. Through the pandemic, the only way to see each other, or for me to visit Canada, was to get married. And we were already just felt like it was so right from the trip that we were even talking towards the end of that summer trip. Let's just get married. And then somehow we were able to pull it off.
Yeah, let's talk about how you finally decided to get married.
Well, we were able to, she was able to come visit, and we met. I was back up in Oregon, still looking for a studio with Steve, months after thinking that I'd already been there. It just happened that it coincided with a break that Melanie had, teacher break, right? No, you came just over a weekend. You were there for like 3 days.
Yeah.
And so she popped down to Washington, and we ended up going up to the Pilchuck Glass School. We got permission from the school board to use their grounds. We didn't go into any buildings, but we pretty much planned a wedding within the span of like 2 weeks. And Steve happens to be ordained in Washington, so he married us, and only 2 other friends came, but we got to go to the spot where we first spent time together, and we got married. The view's spectacular right over the Puget Sound and Washington, the giant pine trees, and it's just a gorgeous setting. So it was really perfect. And then
the images were gorgeous.
And then she was back in Canada.
Yep. Have to go back.
Yep.
So is Steve going with you to Tucson?
Yes. Yeah, we're still opening a studio together.
What do you have coming up in the future here? Any plans for expansion, moving, whatever?
Just trying to actually get a studio going. Yeah, anything is expansion out of the garage. Basically, I work out of the garage at home. I have just a few machines to do all the cutting and grinding. Lately, I've been blowing glass at a friend's studio in North Carolina. I'll just rent for about a week and make as much as I can. And then I bring it home and I do all the cutting and polishing, which that takes a long time. So I'm able to rent the studio for these short periods, but amass enough work. I'm working on each piece for a couple of weeks at a time at home.
You know, Mark, some of your work reminds me, because I know Carrie Gustafson, and some of those cuts remind me so much of Carrie's etching.
We're actually about to collaborate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That'll be excellent.
In fact, I just boxed up our first collaborative piece. I blew it at my friend Jake's studio, and then I've carved it just before we took July off. And yesterday I packed it in a box, and I'm waiting for Carrie to get off of vacation so I can send it to her.
Carrie is just, her work is exquisite.
Yeah.
Just so beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan as well. So what other collaborations are in the works? So wait, let me get back to the Carrie and you combination of a collaboration. So you're sending her like kind of like almost a blank, or have you already done some work on it?
I've blown the blank and then carved it into a form. And then left as much blank canvas for her to like cut through different colors. And she's going to add, I don't know what she's going to do. I told her
that's
to
so
be
exciting.
Creative with it, and so we'll just see. But I'm sure it's going to have some amazing pattern, carved into it. And excited because I've been a fan of her work for so long, and I've always in the back of my mind like I'd like to collaborate with her. And she doesn't really blow glass too much.
Right.
She has other people make her blanks for her, so it just seemed to make sense that I can make a blank for her and carve it into some crazy shape, and then let her do her thing. And yeah, we don't know what one's going to even look like yet.
It's so interesting because the show that I brought your work in for, I also brought Carrie's work in for. So you were in the same show together.
Oh, I didn't even know
and you
that.
didn't even
That's
know
awesome.
it.
We actually got to meet in person when Melanie and we just did a trip in this July. She got to meet my parents in Pennsylvania, and then we did like a New England trip, and we went and visited Carrie and got to meet her in person finally. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really cool collaboration. And we're still talking about what we want to achieve with it and everything, but there's no rush to complete a certain amount of pieces. There's no expectations. There's no exhibition. So I think we're just going to really take our time. And what I would like to see happen is amass like a dozen pieces or so, and eventually have an exhibition, but with no deadline yet, so that we can really just see where they go before we're forced into having to have a certain amount of work for some kind of event. So it might be a couple of years down the road.
That sounds beautiful. Pure pleasure.
It's really like
pleasure.
It's really casual, but both of us are really excited about it. So it'll probably happen fast, especially after one piece is done. We'll probably be excited and just I'll focus on that. But
on your end, what kind of colors are you focusing on?
Bright. We both love bright colors. So she definitely has combinations that she's used in the past that she's suggested. So far, I've blown 3 blanks, and 2 of them are carved and in various stages. So we haven't gotten too experimental. I've basically just taken it upon myself to, I'll know that I have some time in a studio coming up, so I'll just make 1 or 2. So I'm just kind of choosing on the fly, but we both love super bright colors. So yeah, I know she's happy with the choices as well.
You're listening to Art on the Air, WVLP 103.1 FM, and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM. Real quick, do you guys ever work together on any projects?
No, we've never worked together on anything.
We made some goblets and stuff in a friend's studio, but other than that, actually next week we're going back up to North Carolina to blow glass. So I don't know if we're necessarily collaborating on things, but we're definitely going to make some of my work and some of her work. And we'll both be working on as a team. And like over the last few nights, we're brainstorming different business plans for projects together. So it's very, very fresh and in the early stages, so we don't even know what it's going to look like, but it is the plan to
right. Well, Tucson opens up so many opportunities for all of you. So Melanie, a lot of your images are you painting outside? Do you prefer to just to work outside?
I do. I try to be outside as much as possible. I would say as soon as I got here in Alabama, I just kind of made my studio the front porch of the house. It was really dusty and dirty and full of cobwebs and old bugs. So I cleaned it off yesterday. And
boys live there.
Boys do live there. Yeah. Women are messy too.
Yeah.
People are messy. Humans are messy. Anyway, yeah, so I do prefer to be outside. If I could be outside 24/7, I probably would. I think it's so nice just taking your easel somewhere or taking your sketchbook somewhere and just like letting the land kind of inform what you do. And also like giving props to the land in a way.
Yeah, it's always evocative.
We're going to get about ready to wrap up here. We want you to have a chance to tell us your website. So, Melanie, you go first, and how people can find you on social media and or the web.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at melanie.t.long.art. And then my website is melaniettlong.com.
Okay, and Mark, how can we find you?
On the internet, marklaputa.com. And the website's pretty brand new because I focused one of my Canadian quarantine times to building a brand new website. So go check that out. And on Instagram, at Mark Laputa Glass.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on Art on the Air. That was Mark Laputa, who's a glass sculpture artist. And like I said, his story comes from backpacking through New Zealand. And Melanie T Long, who works in a variety of things, painting, drawing, sculpture, glass. And I guess her styles evolved from realism to neo-futurism and abstract expressionism. Anyway, thank you so much for being on Art on the Air.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
And I'd like to welcome to Art in the Air. He's a photographer that's based out of Michigan City. Find him on Facebook at Visual Impressions. You can have everything from a concept to completion, however you want to do it. You can tell him about business and he'll make it happen. Likes to shoot like power boats, speed boats, a whole wide range of things. We'd like to welcome to Art on the Air this wonderful photographer that's going to talk to us, Richard Warner. So welcome to Art on the Air, Richard.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I'm glad to be on air talking to you.
Well,
aloha, Richard. We should also say that he's been in business for 27 years with a photography.
Well, actually, yeah, if you don't mind my interruption, actually, I've been in business for probably close to 40 years.
With photography?
With photography, yes.
Oh, wow.
So, I haven't really updated my visual impressions page because I've kind of stepped back away from photography, but I'm still in it. So, I mean, it's kind of a passion of mine. So, I haven't really updated my Facebook page, but since I got out of the business, which was in 2008, I just kind of cherry pick anything that comes my way.
Well, Richard, we'd like to hear about your entire background. And I usually like to say, like, how you got from where you were to where you are now. So, where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you ended up in Michigan City and what your journey was to there. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I guess my story really started when I was a little kid. I grew up in South Bend. Went to a Catholic grade school in South Bend. And right next door to where my parents lived was a gentleman by the name of Ernie Bohr, and he was a professional photographer. And I always remember as a little kid growing up in the backyard, playing trucks and everything else, Ernie would come barreling out of his back door, heading for his car with 2 cases full of equipment, jump in his car, and he'd zoom off. Well, it always fascinated me. I always wondered what he did, where he was going. Well, then he started to introduce me to photography, what he did, how he did, what he was doing, and all this other stuff. And then he slowly introduced me to his darkroom work and cameras, and he started to advise me, on the best way to take pictures. And I think that's where my passion for it really, really started when I was really young. I couldn't have been more than 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, and that's kind of how that whole thing started.
That's so beautiful.
So then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said that's so amazing and wonderful.
Well, remember, there's one piece of advice that Ernie gave me that to this day I always try to influence, up and coming photographers. Is he always told me, he says, always go out, take pictures, just take a lot of pictures, and remember what you did. Come back, process them. Look at them, be very critical of your work, go back out and do it again. And any mistakes you feel you made, he said, try not to do it again. And he says, just keep repeating the process until you finally, in your mind, perfect your art. To this day, several decades later, I should say, he still echoes in my head.
Very important mentor there.
Yes. Yeah. Then anyway, I went through all the normal stuff as a child. Grade school, high school, and I decided that at that time, middle class family didn't have money for college, so I decided I was going to join the military, and I did just that back in the early 70s. And I ended up doing a couple of stints over in Vietnam while I was in the Navy, and I survived that. And when I got back into South Bend, I decided that I'm going to pursue my dream, if you will, in photography. And so I went on to Indiana University at South Bend, pursued a degree in art history, and I completed that. I've got a bachelor's degree in art history, and then that wasn't enough. And then I decided to go on to Ivy Tech, and I got an associate's degree in science, I believe that's what it's called, in photography. So I did 2 years there, and then I went on to the field, and the rest is history.
So what type of subjects do you shoot over the years? I mean, you had obviously a photography business. So what were some of the things that brought you to Michigan City?
Well, I hear a lot of people saying nowadays that I'm a photographer, and I ask them, okay, well, what do you shoot? Oh, I like shooting portraits. I like shooting weddings. Then I begin to ask them, very specific technical questions they can't answer me. My product shots, which are, when I had my studio, I used to photograph over in Elkhart. I used to photograph motorhomes, automobiles, motorcycles, large product cars, and that was my background. And then it kind of morphed into shooting weddings, which eventually I gave up because working 6 days a week in commercial photography and then working weekends photographing weddings was a little rough on your body. I was a little tired. So I kind of gave that up after about 20 years. I was making good money doing that, but I decided that I need a life here instead of just working all the time. So anyway, in 2008, fast forward to 2008, the economy collapsed. When the economy collapsed, Elkhart, all the disposable income that people were buying motorhomes with, it all went away. So consequently, the city and the county of Elkhart just basically folded. And I decided after nearly 40 years at that time of doing this stuff, it's time for me to find something else to do. And a lot of opportunities presented themselves, and I won't go into detail on that, but I ended up here in Michigan City because having lived in San Diego for 4 years, close to the ocean, I wanted to be close to water. So that's basically how I ended up here in Michigan City. I'm close to the lake, and I absolutely love this environment.
So so we met because you photographed just about every single event that was going on in town. So where did that fit into your arrival in Michigan City, I guess?
Well, actually, I didn't really want to, at that time, I didn't really want to step out of photography altogether. I wanted to stay in it, but I wanted to kind of change it up for myself. So I reached out to a few businesses, and they made a few suggestions here and there, and I started networking with various businesses, various art entities, and so I went out and I started photographing events. I started photographing, well-placed people in LaPorte County, and now I guess I actually had proved to myself that I really did do a good job at networking, because I've managed to build a little bit of a client base here in LaPorte County. And one of the things that I was actually able to do until 2020 is the LaPorte Superior Court has this thing they call drug court. And my understanding is it's a very, very difficult course to get through for people, people with addictions. And I was asked to come in and photograph their graduations, and I did. And I was amazed at how difficult the course was and how committed the people that actually made it through to graduation were. So I was actually able to meet a lot of very interesting, very great people and tough people, because the way it was described to me, this course is anything but easy. So that's one of the networking opportunities I was given. Another local radio station. I've been out there doing interviews and helping with various shows. Esther, you probably know some of the shows that I was out there with, or doing interviews and stuff like that. So
right.
It's been an interesting ride here in LaPorte County.
You're listening to Art on the Air, WVLP 103.1 FM, and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM. So I'm going to ask this question as a photographer. What do you shoot with for our photographers that are listening on the radio show?
Oh, here we are.
Yep.
I shoot Nikon.
Very good. And
you shoot with what?
I shoot with Canon. I shoot with a Canon. You always say if you're going to shoot, you shoot with a Canon. But nevertheless,
shoot with a Canon.
Do you do a lot of post-processing?
The age-old argument.
No. Well, do you do any post-processing, and what do you use for that, like software-wise?
Honestly, most of my post-processing is sent out to a friend of mine, and she does a good bit of that, because I view that stuff as in a business sense, because, the old saying, time is money. Well, it takes somebody else that's more knowledgeable a lot less time to do it than it would be for me to do it. So I would rather pay somebody to process their and my understanding is it's being done on a Lightroom. Any editing is done on a Lightroom platform. So technology-wise, I try to stay away from it, because it just clouds my creative process, if you will. I guess that's not the only way I can describe it.
So I know that you have an association with the zoo. When you were out there, did you take advantage of those very photogenic four-legged and winged creatures out there? Did you do any animal
photography? Absolutely. Absolutely, I did. Having kind of stepped away from photography, it also gave me an opportunity to do some other things that I had always kind of wanted to do. So I was asked to come in and do some maintenance work at the zoo. I like working with my hands, so I have access that most people don't get. I'm actually able to get in and photograph some of these animals in a different environment, and some of them actually know and trust me. Some of them would like to have me for dinner, but
So who did you notice was happy to see you every time?
Well, I'll tell you what, it wasn't so much happy, but it was the male lion. Every time I walk in in the morning, he'd be at the cage pacing back and forth, looking at me like, breakfast. No, seriously though, I think actually there's a crow there that he actually was raised by one of the keepers, and he will talk, and he's got surprisingly, I found out that crows are an extremely intelligent animal. They adapt to their environment very easily, and he will talk to you. And it kind of funny, because if you stand back and just watch people as they walk by, he'll talk to people, and I think people are a little shocked because they didn't expect that.
Does he have favorite things that he says?
Oh, well, for one thing, he's always calling for Aiden. Aiden is his brother. Aiden was this lady's youngest child, and I guess he and Aiden were just brothers, practically. So he's always calling for Aiden, and he'll look at you and he'll just say, hello. And he'll ask you what your name is, and it's really kind of shocking, you know. Everybody looks around like,
who's talking to me?
who said that? But so I'm also a board member on the Zoological Society, so it gives me an opportunity to go out to speak to audiences and explain to people why zoos, and I say zoos plural, mini zoos, are important. So I'm trying to dispel the myth that, you know, these animals are cooped up and there's no good reason for them to be there. And I try to explain to everybody that, well, the zoos are far more important than you may realize, given the state of deforestation and, you know, their environments being destroyed. So once I speak to that subject, people are a little bit shocked, because when I use examples on, you know, how zoos are being used to kind of repopulate some of the endangered species, I think I'm able to reach people and kind of change their minds. You know? But I really kind of enjoy that, because if you can change one mind while you're speaking to an audience, then I've done my job.
Right. Give somebody a different perspective.
I know.
Yes.
You know, you talk about some of the animals there. Do you remember Maggie the lioness?
Here in Michigan City?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have a great portrait.
No, actually, that must have been before my time, because I've only been here since 2008.
Okay. Well, I have a great portrait of her, and then also of the cougar, some things. Like I've gone there and done that. So what do you like to shoot? You know, like if you want to go out for, you know, I'm look at your visual impressions photography site on Facebook, and you know, what is something that you love to do? Just I see things you've done, but like there's sunsets and different things like that. But what else do you like to do, like recreation?
Well, I guess my favorite thing to shoot would be something that's very difficult to light. It's a challenge. For me to go out and photograph bald eagles, which my girlfriend and we have done that over the past several years. And Esther, you know, you've seen the bald eagles that she has shot.
Oh, yes.
That's fun. It's fun. It's very interesting. It's very enjoyable to be out, but it takes...
Well, your sweetheart is just an incredible photographer as well. I mean...
Well, you know, in some respects, I'm a little envious, because she's got talents. She's developed certain talents that I never really developed myself. But I'm more of I enjoy studio photography because it's technically very challenging. I guess that would be the good way to put it. I was at the Blue Chip Casino, and they hired me to photograph several different room configurations, and the lighting was horrendous. So I had to create lighting. I had to figure out on the fly how to photograph these rooms and make them look good, make them, you know, they wanted to see the dimension of it. They wanted to see how the tables were set up. So that was really quite a challenge for me. Let's see, LaPorte, I photographed a bed and breakfast up there. There are 14 rooms in this bed and breakfast. It took me 4 weeks to photograph this entire B&B. There were feature shots. There were big room settings, fireplaces, bathrooms, setting rooms, certain types of tubs that I had to photograph, and each and every one of them were a very technical challenge. One in particular, and it was their premier room, was extremely dark. So I had to photograph this. I had to be able to look out the windows and see the trees outside the windows. I had to match the lighting to the outdoor stuff. So to the outdoor lighting to the indoor lighting, which is...
You loved it, right?
If you've never done that, you don't understand how difficult that is. But that's my cup of tea right there.
Okay. Do you do you do any portrait work yet, or anything like that? If someone comes to you?
Oh, I do portrait work. Yes, if it comes my way. Anymore nowadays, I don't go out and seek it. But yeah, I do portraits. But
well, you certainly, the RV pictures and the boat pictures are just, I mean, it sounds like it would be easy, but your photographs make them look so inviting, and that's where the talent is. I mean, to take that
Well,
object
thank
and
you.
really make you want to, go
Spend
take a look.
time
or
there?
you feel
Yes.
like you can be. Yes, yes.
That's over the years I've learned that you have to have that little voice in your head is, how can I make this look inviting to the public? Do I want a kind of a low key look to it, a very romantic setting? Do I want a really bright and sunny, real cheery? There's a lot of ways to approach this. I suppose that's where the art in commercial photography comes into play, because you've got a wide range of moods that you can develop in your lighting.
Richard, we only have a few seconds left. Can you tell us how people can see your work, your web, or I guess it's a Facebook page, and how to get in touch with you?
Sure. You can reach me anytime at area code 574-215-9193, and you can reach me both on my personal Facebook page, which is Richard Warner, or you can reach me at the Visual Impressions Facebook page.
That's visual impressions photography, and you can see that, and you can see all of his wonderful work there, and also his contact information, which we'll have on our website. That's Richard Warner, photographer in Michigan City, from South Bend originally. Thank you so much for being on Art on the Air and sharing your journey in photography.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the invite.
You've been listening to Art on the Air, and we'd like to thank our guests this week on WVLP 103.1 FM and Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, our weekly program covering arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. Art on the Air is heard every Friday at 11 a.m. and rebroadcast Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP. Art on the Air streams live at WVLP.org and is rebroadcast on Monday at 5 p.m. Plus is also heard on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM every Sunday at 7 p.m., also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our spotlight interviews are also heard Wednesdays on Lakeshore Public Radio. Thanks again to Greg Kovach, WVLP station manager, and Tom Maloney, vice president of radio operations for Lakeshore Public Radio. Our theme music is by Billy Foster with a vocal by Renee Foster. Art on the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project grant and the National Endowment for the Arts. Underwriters for Art on the Air, Walt Breidinger of Paragon Investments and Marilyn Van, Arts Patron. Art on the Air is always looking for financial support. We'd like to thank our current supporters. If you're looking to support Art on the Air, Esther and I especially would invite you to become an underwriter of this program in particular. We have information on our website at breck.com/AOTA. You can find out support information there. So don't just be an Art on the Air listener. Become a supporter or underwriter in whatever amount you're able to do so we continue to bring you this great content and this great local programming. And like I say every week, don't give till it hurts. Give till it feels good. And you'll feel so good about supporting Art on the Air. Information about Art on the Air is available at our website, breck.com/AOTA. That's Breck, BRECH.com/AOTA. That includes a complete show archive, spotlight interviews, plus our show is available on multiple podcast platforms, including NPR One. Please like us on Facebook, Art on the Air, WVLP, for information about upcoming shows and interviews. If you're interested in being a guest or sending us information about your arts-related event or exhibit, please email us at aota@breck.com. That's aota@breck, BRECH.com, or contact us through our Facebook page. Your hosts were Larry Breckner and Esther Golden, and we invite you back next week for another episode of Art on the Air.
Aloha, everyone. Have a splendid week.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the Air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the Air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart.